Who lives, who dies, and who tells your story? 10 years after I first heard those words, they still echo in my brain. Hamilton is a story about legacy. What will you be remembered for? What memory will you leave behind? Hamilton's story ended in a tragic but poetic end. He finally ran out of time, and he threw away his shot. But what happened to the damn fool that shot him? What about Aaron Burr, sir? Hamilton and Burr's story, their entire relationship, is built on this tragic irony. We all know how it's going to end. We all know where this is going. But we also know it didn't need to be this way. Out of all of Burr's mistakes, this was the one that cost him everything. This is what robbed him of his legacy. And today, I want to talk about that story. Because what is good, folks? And welcome back to the Villain Vibes. And today, we're taking a look at Aaron Burr from Hamilton and how he became the villain in our history. Disclaimer from your friendly neighborhood history nerd. Look, we all know Hamilton isn't historically accurate. It is historical fan fiction at the end of the day, and there's nothing wrong with that. Look, I'm mostly talking about Hamilton and Burr within the context of the play and the story of it throughout. I hate to be the one to break it to you that Thomas Jefferson wasn't a sassy gay black guy. I hate to be the one to break it to you. Anyway, detour over, let's get on with the show. Sage, hit the title.
You're an orphan. Of course. I'm an orphan. God, I wish there was a war, then we could prove that we're worth more than anyone bargained for.
Can I buy you a drink?
That would be nice.
While we're talking, let me offer you some free advice.
Burr and Hamilton from their first introduction are meant to parallel each other throughout the play. Two young orphans with chips on their shoulders looking to prove themselves. Where they differ though is their outlook and their motivations behind them. Burr puts the weight of his parents' legacy on his shoulders and holds himself to a certain standard. He waits and contemplates his next moves carefully. He plans things out and weighs his options well, because if he makes a mistake, it doesn't just reflect on him, it reflects on the people he had to leave behind, the people whose legacy he is carrying on. He waits for that reason, that purpose behind why he survived when everybody else didn't. He loves Theodosia with his whole heart, but he's waiting for her husband to die in war so he can be with her with no problems. He doesn't help with the Federalist Papers because post-revolutionary America was an absolute mess and he wants to see where the situation plays out before he starts making his moves. But it's this methodical pace that always leaves him dragging behind Hamilton. As Burr himself puts it, Hamilton doesn't hesitate. He doesn't exhibit any restraint. He goes in and he takes opportunities because life is too short to sit by and wait. He takes every opportunity that he can get and speaks his mind regardless of who hears it. And it's this very action that gets Hamilton into good positions. It's his brash go-getter attitude that puts him on Washington's radar and leads to him becoming the general's right-hand man during the war. It was his outspoken and public support of the Constitution that gets him opportunities and higher positions within the US government. Hamilton is trying to establish his legacy. He knows how he wants to be remembered, so he runs into the hands of fate to see where it takes him and chooses his actions from there. Hamilton has lost so much in life, he has seen so many people die that it's instilled in him that life is too short to sit around and wait. He is throwing his hands into fate and see where it takes him because he wants to be remembered for something. Hamilton and Burr are two sides of a very similar coin. Dear Theodosia solidifies that fact. They both became fathers at around the same time, and they both want to make this nation right for their children to grow up in. They'll do whatever it takes. They'll make a million mistakes, but they'll make it right for their children. Because that is their belief and they will be there for them, something that their parents were tragically unable to do. Burr's relationship with his child is especially tragic because he lost his wife not too long after his daughter was born, and in a song that was sadly cut from the play, we hear the sadness that loss puts him through. He understands that pain that young Theodosia is now going through after she lost her mother, and he swears that he's not going to put her through another loss like that again.
She dedicated every day to you.
changed my life. She made my life worthwhile. And when you smile, I know a part of her lives on. I know I can go on. I'm not standing still, I am lying waves. Hamilton faces an endless uphill climb. He has something to prove, he has nothing to lose. Hamilton's pace is relentless, he wastes no time. What is it like in his shoes?
If there's one thing that defines Burr throughout this play, it is envy, and it is that same emotion that is ultimately his undoing. He cannot fathom how Hamilton is able to thrive as well as he is. After making all of these enemies and all of these chances he's taking, he always seems to come out on top in the end. And that frustrates Burr. In the room where it happened, Burr is utterly confused at how Hamilton continuously finds his way to the top, reaching compromises with Madison and Burr, two people who he is the complete polar opposite of. Burr laments that he's on the outside looking in on all of this. He wishes that he were a part of these decisions, that he could be a part of these political games. He wants a say in what is being traded away. He wants to be in the room where it happens. Even back in the war, he wanted to be Washington's right-hand man, but his cautious and restrained tactics wasn't what General Washington was looking for, in contrast to Hamilton's rush and go-getter mentality. All of this only feeds into his envy and jealousy of Hamilton's success. Burr wants to be important, but he can't just rush in like Hamilton always does, because unlike Hamilton, he has a lot to lose. So Burr starts playing it his way. He starts maneuvering and taking whatever advantages that he can get, being in the right place at the right time. He turns against Hamilton and hitches his wagons to Jefferson and Madison because they're seen as the side that's likely going to win, and as such, he'll be elevated. But it costs him his friendship with Hamilton. They expose his infidelities and force him into political isolation. And now that the board is cleared, Burr takes his chance. Burr and Hamilton have learned a lot about each other over the years, and poetically enough, they both take a lot of aspects from each other that they both use to confront Jefferson. The entire compromise that Hamilton and Jefferson were able to build was because of Hamilton acting like Burr. He talked less, he smiled more, and he attempted to reach a middle ground with Jefferson and Madison and looked for the advantages that he could grab out of it, securing deals for national banks and everything while leaving them with the nation's capital. And Burr, after seeing the opportunity that Hamilton and John Adams' political isolation and infighting brought him, he takes Hamilton's advice and starts rushing in. He runs publicly, actively campaigning for president against Thomas Jefferson in 1800, charming his way to get a solid political bloc and support system that puts up a decent fight against the elitist, opinionated Jefferson. However, it was Hamilton's endorsement that ultimately destroyed Burr's chances. After everything Hamilton and Burr had been through together, being colleagues in their college years, fighting alongside each other during the war, being co-workers in law firms, Hamilton could not bring himself to support Burr's campaign. This was the man that was once his friend, the man that betrayed him, that ran against his father-in-law for the sake of his own political gains. Hamilton and Jefferson despised each other, but at the very least, Hamilton can say it was because of ideological differences. Jefferson and Hamilton had stances that they stood by passionately. Burr, in contrast, it was a lot more personal, because Burr did not have any political stances that they contradicted. He just said whatever he had to in order to get ahead and get support. Hamilton can at least bring himself to respect Jefferson's convictions. He can't say the same thing for Burr, because Burr doesn't have any convictions.
I had never agreed with Jefferson once. Oh! We have fought on like 75 different fronts. Oh! But when all is said and all is done, Jefferson has beliefs. Burr has none.
Well, I'll be damned. Well, I'll be damned.
And this is what pushes Burr over the edge, leading to what might be my favorite song in the entire play, Burr's ego is now completely shattered, and he has nothing left but barely restrained rage and disdain. He cannot comprehend that Hamilton would do this to him, that this arrogant immigrant orphan bastard would prop up his ideological rival out of complete pettiness. Hamilton had made a fool out of him since the day that they met. The first thing Hamilton ever asked him for was advice, and Burr told him to keep his head down, keep his mouth shut, and he'll be fine. And Hamilton never listened. He took Burr's opportunity at being Washington's right-hand man. He gets to help shape the fate of the US without him, and now he's ruined his last chance at getting to the room where it happens. Injustice after injustice has forced Burr to snap and leaves only one response left. Fools who run their mouths off wind up dead.
Dear Alexander, I am slow to anger, but I toe the line as I reckon with the effects of your life on mine. I look back on where I failed, and in every place I checked, the only common thread has been your disrespect.
We have no control of who lives, who dies, and who tells our story. Burr might have won the duel, but Hamilton still won the argument. He had nothing more to prove, and he accepted his fate with open arms. Burr took desperate actions to defend his honor and to survive, and to protect his ego. But it ended up costing him his legacy, and he'll forever be remembered as the guy that slayed the $10 founding father. Hamilton's legacy was secured, not just by the systems that he helped build, but by his wife who continued telling his story until her dying breath. Burr, in contrast, had nothing and no one. He had burnt every single bridge that he came across, and he had outlived his own daughter. He was left alone with nothing but regrets for how he lived his life and the man that he became. Aaron Burr was a man that wanted to be remembered like Hamilton was. He wanted to be seen as someone important. But he ultimately failed because he was a man that stood for nothing. Had he swallowed his anger, his fear, and his resentment, him and Hamilton could have done amazing things together. The world was wide enough for both of them. But Burr was too young and blind to see it. I hope y'all enjoyed the video today, folks, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button to keep track of my content, and hit me up down in the comments below and let me know what other villains you would like to see me vibe with here on the show. What were your thoughts on Aaron Burr? Or hell, what were your thoughts on Hamilton as a whole? I really loved this play, and this whole renaissance of it within the last year kind of reawakened a whole phase within me. This weird sort of cross-pollination between my villain vibes interest and my historical nerd shit. Like, I really love that I can cross-pollinate my two main interests, and Aaron Burr was a major interesting point for both of those things. But for now, I must bid you all adieu. So goodbye, good night, Sage out.